part of PureFire Creatives. I am here with Joan Lok. She is part of the Visionary Women exhibit that's up in Columbia Art Center. And welcome, Joan.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So what we're going to do is I just want to give you an opportunity to tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Joan Lok. I live in Colombia, and as our host has said that, I'm part of the Visionary Women exhibitions. I've been a resident of Maryland, Howard County for a long time. And what I do paintings in Sumi-e, which is water and ink on rice paper. And in the art world, it's actually more like watercolor. However, the equipment and the supplies that we use is slightly different. Our paper are very thin. We call it rice paper. And then the brushes, they are mainly round brushes, but then a majority of them are natural hair. And as a matter of fact, I bought some samples of the brushes that I use. So they are usually round, and then some of them are harder hairs, some of them are hair, but then, some of them, if you can see this one is a combination of hard and soft hair together. So most of them are round. And when I do the painting, what I do is I do it on very thin paper, and I have a sample. I have a sample where you can see the light passing through, and you can see my hand. This is how thin the paper is. And the good thing about using very thin paper and the round brushes is that when the brushes hit the water and ink on the paper, the absorbency is really immediate. And therefore, not only does the paper show the colors, it also shows the brushwork. And therefore, a lot of people call this brush painting because the brushwork really shows. And as a matter of fact, let me just show you a sample of what the brushwork may be like. So these are two little bunnies eating a carrot. But
lift it up just a little bit. Lift it up just, yeah, perfect. Okay.
These are, two bunnies eating a carrot, and you can see the brushwork from here, go all the way up and then come down, and you can see the strokes. So that's the beauty of this kind of painting.
Beautiful. So is the sunflower painting behind you yours?
Yes, it's mine. It's rice paper is always handmade. Of course, with technology, now we also have rice paper that are machine made. But then, a lot of time the rice paper, when they are made in the not even factories, the artisan shops, they come really big pieces. And then a few years back when I was visiting the Smithsonian, it was during the Cherry Blossom Festival. And then, they have invited some really great paintings to be exhibited outside of Japan. And they are in a full sheet of rice paper, which is 56 inches by 27 inches. So after that, I decided that maybe I want to try not cutting my paper and doing big pieces. So the one behind me are sunflowers that I did inspired by that particular exhibitions. And we have two chickadees on the side, but then they are like real life size rice sunflowers, which is, they do grow this big. And it's a full sheet of rice paper that I really like that. I think it's really happy, and especially in times that we are staying home, to like brilliant sunflower, it makes people happy.
Yes. Now, did I understand correctly that you actually have books on how to do it as well?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I have a really popular book called Chinese Brush Painting Flowers. And the book was published in English and written in English, and it includes how to paint flowers in the brushwork that I did. And the interesting thing is, after I wrote it in English, the publisher was able to market it in Europe, and therefore the book is in 5 different languages right now.
Oh, wow.
Dutch, is Italian, French, and also Spanish.
Wow,
And
wonderful.
I made it a mission to try to collect all the copies, and I have to say that I succeeded.
Oh,
I
good.
went to Italy and got me a copy in Italian. I
Uh-huh.
was visiting Spain on my vacation, and I collected one in Spanish. A colleague visited Paris last year and collected one in French.
Uh-huh.
And then I was thinking, how do I get a Dutch copy? And I was telling my student, then my student said, hey, Joan, I'm visiting my brother in Holland. I'll pick one up for you. So
Oh, nice.
actually, just this spring, I collected all the different languages, and I'm I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, how exciting is that? That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a very popular book, and as a matter of fact, I throw in like how to paint a bird, and
Mm-hmm.
have you realized that this is an Oreo because I live in
Ah.
Maryland? I take
That'd
Oreo
be like your Maryland background is showing, right?
Yes.
Can you I think you had something where you showed like the steps you're working on a bird book, is that right? How to paint birds?
Yeah, yeah. After I finished the flower book, a lot of my students said that, Joan, can you also teach us how to paint birds? Then I said, let me see if I have time to do that. And therefore, with work and a lot of competing priorities, I would
Mhm.
take a little bit of time to finish it. But I have started working on a bird book, and um, this is something that that I'm working on. For example, this is
Mhm.
a cardinal, and I
Mhm.
have to say that in Maryland, we see them in our backyard all the time as well. And the bird
Mhm.
basically is black. So the way I did it is, instead of doing it very meticulously, I actually use brushwork to represent, for example, this is like one stroke going up,
Mhm.
and then you see that the body come down, and
Mhm.
the speed of the brush would have different lines and holes in it. We call it flying white, and
Mhm.
and so the brushwork show, and this would be the sample of how it may look like when it is done.
Mhm. Fantastic.
So I
Oh,
hope
that's
to have
very
a third
cool.
book soon, but I have to take some time on it because like birds is a lot more difficult to paint than flowers.
Yes, yes, yes. They people will know when like they're off.
Yes, yes. Actually, um, flowers too. You
Yeah.
never know. There are a lot of binders and really experienced gardener that are coming to see your artwork. You
Yeah,
have
yeah. Well, like I try to kind of when I'm teaching, so I teach like acrylics and watercolor and things like that, and I try to explain that in art it's not like math in the sense of like you don't have to show your longhand. Do you know what I mean? Like
yes,
and so I'm like, if you know what a lemon looks like, you can paint it from your imagination because nobody's gonna say, show me that lemon. Do you know? Show me the lemon that you painted. It's off, you know? And so I think that they have a little bit, flowers have a little bit more flexibility, I think, than birds because
yes. On top
people,
of a lot of times when we paint flowers and bird, at least for myself,
Mhm.
uh, I mean, like when I paint flowers, it's not just I'm trying to capture the beauty when they're in bloom. But in a way, just like the reason why I put the sunflower up today, because sunflower not only is the beauty of the sunflower, but then it represents sunshine, it represents happiness, and
Mhm.
and certain emotions that people relate to. And
Mhm.
then, for example, like in the last month, and uh, like Washington D.C. has a lot of cherry blossoms, and then cherry blossoms to a lot of people represent the return of Spain, spring.
Mhm.
Um, and then the Howard County, because we are a little bit north of DC, so therefore our cherry blossom actually haven't bloomed yet, but then they will bloom in the middle of April. So I'm sure that people who are coming to Columbia, living in Howard County and the rest of Maryland, they will
Mhm.
continue to see different cherry blossom as well. So
Mhm.
when we paint the flower, it's not just capturing the beauty, but the kind of emotions that we have with them. And it not have to be happiness. Sometimes it could be sadness. Sometimes it could be mystery. And the same thing with birds. Birds, anything that has a face would a lot easier to accumulate emotions. And birds do have face as well. Although you may not think about it that way, but when you are really getting into painting it, the ways their eye, the ways their face look, does communicate what you want to tell the viewer.
Yeah. Well, I used to do pet portraits, and I would literally talk to the portraits and go, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And I would and then I'd go, oh, there you are. Because you would be like, that's not quite it, not quite it, not quite it. And then suddenly you're like, oh, that's it, And so I totally agree. I think that each little creature has its own little, I don't know if you want to call it vibe of life or whatever, but they do have their little personalities,
Yeah, I do think so too. Sometimes when we put up an artwork, especially because especially the media that I do is watercolor, and so therefore you really don't want to overwork it, and because of that, there are times that you have to stop, and I always tell my student, this is time to get a cup of tea,
right?
Walk away and then come back to it, and it may tell you what is needed.
Yeah,
if you stare at it, you may not see it, but then when you walk away and then come back to it, then maybe something is kind of screaming and say, hey, put another flower here, or you need a bird here.
Yeah, well, and I do think that's one of the hardest things to teach a beginning artist, is to step away from it, because I've started, I was just before everything shut down, I was like, I think I'm going to start putting a timer in my classroom, and so that it'll be okay, now's the time you step away from your painting, look at everybody else's, because it's so valuable, but people just forget to do it because they're just so focused on the task at hand. But yes, it absolutely is really valuable. I just have to ask you, have you been to McKee Bescher's, the big sunflower thing out in Maryland? Or is it Maryland? McKee Bescher's, the big sunflower field?
I don't think so, but then one of these days I probably will, when we are venturing.
I'll send you the info, because people they watch, it's like a bloom watch. Do you know what I mean? They'll start reporting on Facebook and everything, oh, the field, they're in bloom, and it's great because they're all these massively tall sunflowers, and then it's the people become little groundhogs. You'll see them pop up above, and then it's wonderful.
I was in a balloon festival last year, and I believe that it was in a vineyard, and next to the vineyard, there are sunflower fields. Yeah. But then
they're beautiful.
It was at the end of summer, so some of them has already been harvested. But then I can imagine when they are in full bloom, it must be outrageously gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, it is. I mean, you would be hard pressed to be unhappy in a field like that. All right, so let us know, where can we find you?
It's very simple. My name is Joan Lok, so therefore, you can see me in joanlok.com, which is my website, and you can see my schedule. But of course, a lot of those classes has been postponed. But then I'm also on Facebook and also on Instagram, Joan Lok Art, and email me, communicate, and I may, come to your interview again. Thank you for inviting me this time.
Thank you so much. This has been delightful.
My pleasure. Thank you.